Welcome back to the conversation. I've got to tell you, this morning is very exciting for me, and I know you're going to love it too. We've got some important and wonderful colleagues joining us this morning, and we're going to get to hear from them, and that just encourages my heart beyond belief. So let's hear from everybody else as we're getting warmed up here and ready to go. Let us know who's out there. So Carolyn, Lori, and Carrie can see who's hearing what their wisdom. And like I told them, there's nothing like timing. So a gentleman decided to blow off my yard out in front of my window right now. So if you're hearing that, I apologize. But let's hear from everybody. Who's out there this morning? It's 9 o'clock. I know you're waking up and coming on. All right, Robin, good to see you back this morning. Yeah, 865. Hey, Kristen, I talked to you yesterday. Sunny Sarasota, that's awesome. Nikki, Bill, Richie, how you doing this morning? Hello to everyone. You are right. Well, keep letting us know. So we got it. What we're going to do this morning, I'm going to introduce three colleagues that have been involved in this series for several, all 20 plus weeks, actually. Hey, Allison. Hey, Stephanie. Who we got here? Virginia, good to see you. Beretta, Angela, Scott. Look here, everybody doing great. Coffee is doing its job. Love it. Yes, it is, Scott. Hey, Emily, good to see you. Hey, Al, Scott, Sarah. My coffee's working too. I'm just cheering to the coffee from Scott. Lisa, all in. Good deal. All right, let's roll. So what we're going to talk about this morning, hey Dave, what we're going to talk about this morning is really bringing it all home, right? So this is our 21st week. Can you believe it? We've been together for 21 weeks. We've built out a continuing the conversation LinkedIn web page that people are starting to engage with, and I'm working really hard to be out there and monitor that and respond more to some of that. Hey, Lisa. Hey, I love it when our chat partners are starting to share hellos with each other. That's awesome. Continue that. But this morning, we're going to kind of bring it all home. So what have we learned in the first 20 so weeks? But more importantly, how are we applying that? So, as we have these conversations, as you're building out a network and you're getting to know each other, what are some of the things that you picked up on and you've applied and you said, okay, that was good. Now I'm going to try to apply other things. Our three panelists, let me introduce them to you. Carrie Throw is coming to us from gorgeous Tallahassee, Florida, right in the middle of the epicenter of all the politics, so that's awesome, Lori Ruth works with the Observer Group. Now you're based in Sarasota too, or are you based over on the other coast?
No, I'm in Sarasota area, Lakewood Ranch.
Yeah, all right, Lakewood Ranch, that's beautiful. My daughter got married right outside of that in June last year. I love that area. And Lori, thanks for being here. You are awesome. And finally, someone who needs no introduction to this group, but Carolyn Notley, who works with Jim at Florida Press Association and oversees our agency work and has for a long time. Glad to have all three of you here this morning and joining the conversation. So what we want to do is we're going to talk about those things, and then we're going to talk about, okay, what are the gaps that over the next 5 weeks, we've got 5 more sessions, and then we're going to kind of on the last session or the last couple of sessions, we're going to really try to wrap it all together, right? Kind of looking in the rear view of what we've talked about and staring out the windshield, right, to the future that is bright with our leadership that is growing and developing and the influence that we're having on growing our business and helping our communities thrive, right? And then we're going to wrap that up by coming together at the Capstone project in beautiful Point Vedra, Florida on August the 3rd. And that's the key point here. Jim Fogler says, good morning, everyone. Jim's behind the camera. He knows what's going on here, and he's been such a great supporter. So, Jim, let me give a shout out to you, too. But on August the 3rd, we're going to come together for a Capstone project. We're working hard on that agenda, and we're going to start getting more out about that agenda. We're going to look at some of the characteristics of leadership. We're going to look at some of the emotional intelligence criteria that keeps us calm under fire and really lets us demonstrate our ability to be that steady hand during the storm. And we're going to wrap all of that up. And what we've asked everybody to do is submit a 3-minute video. And so part of what we're going to talk about with these three wonderful in the leaders this morning is kind of how they're thinking about that and what their framework for that is, the criteria we just talked about. But I want to encourage everybody out there. That deadline is June the 3rd. We talked about that we need more latitude with that deadline. No, we don't. We've been talking about leadership is all about essentialism and prioritization and making decisions on how we're going to spend our time. So we know everybody can get those videos in. Good morning, Stephanie, and all the others that have piped in. So we want to encourage you to get those in early. Remember, we're going to have 15 scholarship positions out of 30 something, and we're looking to those videos early. The sooner you get in, the better. I got a little surprise at the end for those that go ahead and get it done, because we want to have plenty of time to develop out the individuals are going to make up this conversation on June 3rd. So get those videos in. So let's kick this off. I know everybody's eager and ready to share this morning. So we discussed it, and Carrie is going to lead the way. So Carrie, tell us about what you're thinking related to this topic.
Well, so do you want me to start with just what I've learned or what my biggest takeaway?
Let's talk about what you've learned, how you're applying it.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that there's been at least one, if not multiple things that I take away from each session each week, right? It's like a little, I think lots of us have said it's like a little jolt in the middle of our week to just kind of refresh us and remind us, one, that we're not alone in what we're dealing with and that lots of us are going through the same thing, and good reminders. I think the one session that stood out the most to me was probably Andy Robinson's second visit with us with VUCA leadership.
Yeah.
I think it was just all encompassing with a lot of what I feel on a day-to-day basis, right? With change and having to pivot and be flexible and be open. And so I took notes feverishly that day. And so I think that's the one that kind of stuck the most in my mind.
That's awesome. What do you, as you think about, gaps and, the topics that we've covered, we've got 5 weeks. You got any thoughts there, things that we need to focus on to kind of wrap this up in the best way possible?
Well, I mean, I think there's probably takeaways from everything in what my answer will be on this one. But I think the hardest part for me, as our company has transitioned over the past few years, and a lot of the people that we work with now, so, report to other people. They're part of different teams. We're so kind of segmented. It's how to lead and coach without title, right? And how to hold people accountable and partner with people so that we're all going towards the same goal when you don't necessarily have like direct responsibility, right? That's probably the biggest thing that I think about on a day-to-day basis is how can I help coach this person, this partner, so that we're all going towards the same mission.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. In today's time, and we talked about a little bit before we came on. There's a lot of nervousness in the market right now. So as you're talking to your clients, the macro effects in the economy trickle down, and so that it allows that creep. Remember we talked about don't let the creep in, but it allows that mental creep to come in and say, well, what else? And you start, kind of getting off of the values and principles. But more importantly, what you're talking about is when people are feeling overwhelmed and they've got more to do than they can really do, how can you step in as a colleague through those relationship techniques we talked about and other things to use your influence, right? So that they know that you're doing it out of your compassion for what you're wanting to achieve collectively as a group, and get away from the old hierarchy thinking, right? So many people, sometimes feel like, well, if you're not my boss, why are you involved in my business, right? Well, the reality of it is we're all involved. And if you're in sales, we've talked about this a lot. Everybody's in sales to a degree, right? You have so much information to share with your companies about what the marketplace is thinking and feeling about your product and your solution. I mean, your news organization should want those leads, for an example. How do you lead in and make sure your content is rich and up to current market thinking, right? Meet the market where it is. You've got people in the operations side that are fulfilling on your campaigns and other things. Your ability to help them, understand what that client's looking for in the most efficient way possible is not something a boss has to do, right? Matter of fact, it's more important that when a colleague does it. So some of that is just flat cultural. And being fairly familiar with your organization, you've got a lot of complexity built into that through the verticals that are there and all of the alignment to those verticals. But what is a challenge is what you're talking about is that horizontal alignment. How do you get beyond out of your scope of influence and influence the horizontal aspects of your business so that you get the greatest impact? So we'll talk more about that. You happen to be very good at it, though, by the way. But it also comes from that demonstration of caring. I care deep about us winning. This is not about me as the individual. This is about us as a collective good. So thank you for that, Carrie. So what are you looking for when you get up to a beautiful Point of Vedra at our Capstone? What would make for a great day for you?
Well, I mean, I think there's lots of good things on the agenda. It's always good to network, right? I am one of those people where I tend to, I might be what you call a firefighter, right? So I'm in my zone a lot at work. And so going somewhere, removing me from my normal element, putting me in a location allows me to really kind of just zone everything else out and focus. So I always enjoy going to, conventions and events like that. I'm sure the speakers are going to be great, good conversation. Anytime there's an emotional intelligence assessment, I'm all for it as long as nobody else gets to see my results and and I can follow it up.
You'll be the poster child. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but I'm the queen of those. And I've done that superpower exercise before. I don't know if it's the exact one I've done, but I love it. I love learning about myself, but I also love learning about other people. So I think there's lots of good things that I'm looking forward to that I see on that agenda.
The kind of, we talk about the mirror a lot. What I love about these things is the more we can appreciate who we are, the more we can interact in a real creditable way with those around us, right? Because our differences are also our strengths sometimes, because we're looking for those compliments, right? So if you have one strength and somebody else is weak in that area, when you put you together, you make for a great dynamic team. So thank you, Carrie, for that. So Laura, let's talk about you for a minute. Good morning from beautiful Sarasota again. What are some of the things you've applied from these lessons? And
one of the things that I basically picked up on is I don't take the time to think about this. What you've done is you've given me time every week to think about what's going on with my company, who needs help, where do I need help? Bill, you fulfill that for me. You are such a great leader and you are such an inspiration that's something I strive to be. So I love getting that gas. I'm fueled up from these meetings because then I take it from here and I take it to the team. And we have a management meeting every week, and 9 out of 10 times we're talking about some takeaway that we've had from the meeting that, this session.
Yeah, that's great.
And it once again, it adds more fuel to us, and it's helped us to structure some of our internal meetings with the sales staff. So you talk about superpowers. We've delegated the training that we have once a week to the sales reps.
Oh,
so
wow.
we figure out what are their superpowers, and they get the buy-in. They tell us what they're good at, and then they get to lead the team that week. And it's been amazing to watch the team come alive, because now they know how hard it is to lead.
Yeah.
And they give each other grace, and it's just been really fun to watch. So that was a big culture change for us.
You use two words right there that are important: gas. I love that term, gas, right? And grace. And I think a lot of times what we don't think about is the fact that we work a lot in the business. What we're trying to do here is help you have the capacity to work on the business. And a lot of what you're talking about in training and developing and strategy is working on the business. And I will say that one of the biggest weaknesses from a leader's point of view that I would see is how we get sucked into the inside of the business so much. And it becomes internal, and it becomes all those things, right, that we need to work on. But in reality, the marketplace is leaving us behind in a degree because we're not taking that time to reward ourselves with the fun work, which is working on the business, right? And so, congratulations on that realization. What can we talk more about that you think would be of value to kind of close up, like Carrie's points? What would you like to see us do, and we'll frame that up and make it happen.
In our market, we're changing so quickly. So
Hmm.
it's always just trying to be cutting edge and to make sure that we are educating ourselves. So just again, encouraging that extra education and how to be out in the community. How do we become more and more creative in a need for our clients? Because I think at the end of the day, if they know that we're their media partners, we're their partners in their business, they will buy into that and
Hmm.
we'll all succeed. So it's
We
just
should
a little bit more of that.
we should talk about that because I think that's a very important topic too. Is people we've talked about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, in the context of building your business in your space, we talk about helping businesses grow, but it's really strengthening the communities we serve, right? So we can talk a lot about some of the techniques that we can use to demonstrate authenticity in that regard. Because at the end of the day, you don't want your clients or your community or your civic leaders to see you as always self-serving. That enlightened self-interest. And I think that's where sometimes we can make a mistake. We go out and we talk a lot about this, but in reality, our practice is much more about what we get out of it versus what we put into it, right? And so done well, we are rewarded for our good work in that community, right? And so when doing that, our clients see us as really an investment. We talked a little bit about before we came on air about this, as the economy tightens up and people are looking at how they spend their money, you don't want to be viewed as a vendor. You don't want to be viewed as an expense because everybody's looking at how to change that, right? And that's true in my business, particularly in my business, right now, as I've moved more to consulting. But the reality of it is we want to be able to demonstrate that we're an investment, that there's a return on our knowledge, on our products, on our solutions, on you. Remember, you as the product too. Represent your brand as the product. You are the thought leader in your organization. We'll talk more about that. That is wonderful, Lori. What about on August 3rd? What are you looking for?
I can't wait to reunite with a lot of friends that I have. We get
Hmm.
to come together once a year. I've been coming to FNAME meetings for probably, I don't know, 7 years. So it's that one time a year that you get to come back and meet up with different markets and have those
Hmm.
conversations. And it's basically just like the chat on the side on your Wednesday meetings. I
Hmm.
love that interaction. I love seeing those names up there, people that I haven't seen or talked to. So it's just coming together as an organization.
That's awesome. All right, we'll make sure there's plenty of that. So, Carolyn, let's go. Tell us what you've applied. You're kind of a multi-location operator too. You get to play in a lot of markets. So, what are you applied, and what do you want to learn more about?
Um, I would say I'm going to agree with Carrie on my aha moment throughout the series was with Andy Robinson, and that was that pivotal point where I had confidence in
Hmm.
not only leadership at work but leadership personally among my family. That was
Yeah.
like it
Hmm.
gave me not only confidence but awareness to
Hmm.
keep my eyes open and look at things differently. Now that we're all traveling again and amongst other conferences, I've learned that that your excitement and your energy is transferable and it's contagious. And I've seen a lot of sessions at other conferences that are important and look really intriguing on paper, and those that are presenting don't share that excitement. And something that could be so exciting is really boring. So
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
it's not only what you say, it's how you say it, and
Sure.
how energy and excitement feed others. So that was really that aha moment. I've learned that leadership skills are different, but
Hmm.
you have to be confident and open to learning and not be shy about it. That's hard. You can be, I'm type A, I'm, talk all the time, very outgoing, but if I'm not confident in my leadership skills, I'm doing myself a disservice.
That's a great point.
So you have to be all in all genuine in life and work. And that's what I have taken away most from this series.
That's awesome. And, Andy also talks about the importance of self-care in that regard too, right? We tend to want to do everything for everyone else, but we got to remember it starts with us as well, being that product and being that vision. What about August 3rd? Well, I mean, what are you thinking about coming out of that program? Is there anything?
Well, I too am excited to be with everybody because, I draw my energy from others, and I would love to see more interaction, maybe because we'll be in person, maybe some workshops or little, maybe scenarios, little role play, if you're in a difficult situation that might be different, more off the cuff, kind of like we're doing now, but little role plays, interaction.
Well, I want everybody out there in our viewership to show some love to these three. I think this has been awesome. Your takeaways are good. I'm sure people have related to a lot of what you're thinking and talking about. I will share with Andy. He'll be so glad to hear that his conversation was an impact. It reminds me, maybe I'll get him to come back and help us wrap it up at the end some. He does a lot of this type of thing, and he would be a good addition to that. So I'll work on that. So everybody out there, tell Carrie and Lori and Carolyn how much you appreciate them. And here's the deal. For the first two videos after this session that come in for our Capstone project, you're going to win Maxwell's 365-day reader. And that's a wonderful book. All of our participants here are also getting books if they haven't, and they are going to be at the Capstone. So not only did you get to hear them wonderful message this morning, you're going to get to network with them while they're at Point Vedra on August 3rd. I cannot thank you enough for being here. You have encouraged my heart greatly. You are modeling the way. You're great leaders, and you inspire all those around you. Look at all that love you're getting from our viewership out there. So enjoy that, absorb it, keep it coming, everyone. We'll see you next week. We're going to get back into the topics, and I think you'll find them to be good closing out our next 5 weeks. And we're going to have a blast up in Point Vedra. So, ladies, thanks for being here. I want you to have a great week. And in the meantime, everyone, lead on. Take care.